Hello, everyone. We are very happy to have Nafisa of the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation join us on my podcast. Nafisa, thank you so much for joining and helping bring awareness to children's health. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
So, can you please give us a brief introduction to the Stollery Children's Hospital and the influence Bob and Shirley Stollery had on children's health in Edmonton?
Absolutely. So the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation supports children's health at the Stollery Children's Hospital. We are the second largest children's hospital in Canada and the most specialized hospital in Western Canada. So we see approximately 317,000 children, not only from Edmonton region, but from beyond, children from the north, south, east, and west. And the Stollery got its name from the wonderful Bob and Shirley Stollery. And they had a daughter who had some medical complications, and they were able to seek medical care for her down in the States at the specialized Mayo Clinic. And they recognized that not every family would have that ability and wanted to elevate children's health here in Edmonton. And so the Stollery family, along with many other amazing community builders, started to raise funds to establish what we now call the Stollery Children's Hospital.
Can you tell me about the foundation's role with the hospital?
Absolutely. So we are partners in children's health, and we receive information on how we can be transformative and innovative
Hi guys, today we are very, very thankful to have Dr. Atallah from the Stollery Children's Hospital Foundation Cardiology Department join our podcast. Can you please give me like a bit of an overview of the cardiology department at the Stollery?
Absolutely. We are the second largest pediatric cardiac and surgical program in Canada, and we service a wide area of Canada, most of Western Canada, from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, of course, and Northwest Territories. And we have a complement of a large group of cardiologists, about 17, and a very large group of support staff, nurses, technicians, sonographers, quite a large program, and 3 cardiac surgeons.
How difficult was it to provide uninterrupted cardiac services to kids in need during COVID?
It was definitely challenging, and of course it varied depending on which phase of the pandemic and the restrictions, and also the type of patients. For some patients, we were able to postpone the investigations by several months and see them later when things were a little bit more quiet in terms of the virus activity in the community. But for some patients, you can postpone it by a few weeks, maybe a month, but eventually they had to be seen. So our support staff did a wonderful job going over all the patients with us, and every cardiologist had to triage every clinic, go over the patients, decide who they can give a call and chat on the phone and maybe do the investigations later, and who they really needed to see in person, and trying to balance the flow through the clinic so that we don't have too many patients in the waiting room at the same time and people being exposed and so on. So it was logistically quite challenging. We created new protocols like many centers did, but I think we made it through, and overall we had to make some compromises, but I think we still did well in terms of providing the best care we could to the patients during that period.
How many heart malformations does the Stollery see any given year?
I guess it depends how you look at it. Hundreds. In terms of how many patients we see in the clinic, and a majority of them will have some heart malformation. It's about over 6,000 visits a year. In terms of surgeries for heart malformations, we do over 600, 400 with cardiopulmonary bypass. Yeah.
Okay, so I was born with truncus arteriosus. The hospitals in Montreal and Ottawa see about 2 cases each year. Would you say it's similar here in Edmonton?
Yeah, no, that's the average is about 2. And same for us. It varies, of course, but that's the average here as well.
What is the most common heart procedure performed at the Stollery, and is there a highly specialized procedure that you offer?
Yes. In terms of diagnostic procedures, the most common would be echocardiograms and ECGs, the basics. So we do over 7,000 echoes a year, and I think about 6,000 ECGs or so. In terms of the surgical procedures, the most common would be for VSD, and that's because it's one of the most common congenital heart disease lesions. We also do cardiac catheterizations. For specialized procedures, there are a few in different aspects. We offer surgical procedures for what we call high-risk neonates, meaning newborns born with quite severe heart disease that requires very complex surgery early on, and maybe many surgeries. So we have the expertise to offer that and offer good outcomes. The cardiac catheterization team performs wonderful and complex procedures on many patients who don't need surgery but can benefit more from cardiac catheterization, whether that's opening up vessels or implanting valves in known and new locations within the heart. So they do a great job. The heart rhythm team that I work with, we try to offer new procedures, whether it's mapping of the electricity of the heart or implanting a new type of techniques for pacemakers. And also we offer support for patients who need artificial heart support as well, and ECMO.
What do you think the future is like for cardiac care, and is there a surgical breakthrough that may occur in the very near future, such as like eliminating open heart surgeries?
Oh, we all hope so, I guess, because that's really the more invasive procedure. I don't think we'll be able to eliminate open heart surgeries altogether, but we can definitely improve things.
Like limit the amount of heart surgeries?
Yeah, exactly. So for some patients, we offer what we call hybrid procedures. So part of the procedure is an open heart, and the other part is with the cardiac catheterization team, so that the patients are not exposed to the bypass and open heart for a long time, and you try to minimize the risk and the complications from it. And for some patients, we try to present them with an option of what we call less invasive. So again, replacing a valve through a catheter rather than doing open heart procedure. Open heart surgery is of great benefit because if the outcome is equally as good or similar, you avoid the bypass and the long recovery period. Oftentimes they're in the hospital for just a couple of days, a day or two, and then they go home, which is major difference. So for example, for your condition that you mentioned, truncus, sometimes they have to change what we call the pulmonary valve, the valve between the right side of the heart and the lungs. And instead of having to always do that through surgery, that can be done through a transcatheter. And for the other valve, the truncal valve, there are also individuals and centers working on techniques to try to repair and fix the valve without always having to replace the valve.
If you had a wish list for your department, what would that be?
Okay, open-ended question. That could be a lot, but to be honest, the first thing that comes to mind is a better environment for the families. Spacious, quiet rooms, whether it's in the clinic or on the ward. The hospital can be very loud, lots of interruptions, no private time, and when you're tired and stressed and lacking sleep or not being able to rest for a little bit makes things exponentially worse. So I think trying to provide the families with a comfortable place and quiet place is key to try to improve the tough journey they have going through open heart surgery for the patients themselves and for the parents who are there with them.
And finally, what keeps you motivated to do what you do day in and day out?
Patients like you, that you when they're young, you look after them and you treat them and you offer them surgery, and they grow up to be such well-accomplished members of society. It's great. The families that sacrifice so much, so the least we can do is try to give them the best care we can. But it's not only about just the best care, but try to always seek the best knowledge, so we are always up to date, and we are providing the best up-to-date care for the families. And for some patients, some of the procedures we do, for example, the heart rhythm procedures, you can offer them a cure. So they live with a rhythm problem that's really annoying and impacts their quality of life, and you can offer them procedure, it's cured, it's gone, and they can live normally after that, which is, of course, great.
That's awesome. So we've come to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for joining, and I had a lot of fun. It was a great interview, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
So, first of all, thank you so much for joining my podcast. And how's Aiden, and how's it like being a dad?
Well, thank you for coming to Edmonton first. And being a dad's, it's awesome. You get a little less sleep, but I'm not a big sleeper anyways. But he's 9 months now, so he's trying to climb up everything. I'm sure your dad remembers those days, and we got a couple dads out of him, so hopefully that mom wasn't too happy about that because she's always around and I'm always on the road, but I'll keep it.
So both our dads got drafted to the CFL in the same year. Is it true that your dad recommended you stick to your mom's sport, basketball, to avoid injury playing football? And at what age did you realize hockey was like your sport?
Yeah, so he probably would have wanted me to play basketball, but I was no good at basketball, so I was okay at hockey, so I stuck with hockey. He said not to get into football, and I found out hockey probably was a path maybe when I was 14. I really started to fall in love with the game, and at that point we were living in Hamilton, but I was playing in Toronto, so my parents sacrificed a lot. They would drive back and forth 4 or 5 times a week, and once I made that commitment, I wanted to prove that I could do at the high level. So I'm very appreciative for all their support.
So both your parents are both very successful athletes. What did you learn from them to get to where you are today?
Hard work. That was the first thing they ever taught me. Was you have to earn everything. Nothing is given in this world, whether it's sports or life. So hard work was something that was instilled early, and that's probably the greatest lesson I also learned from them as athletes, because they got to play at high levels and see the world through sport because they worked to get themselves to that point.
And how closely do you follow Kia and your cousin Sarah's careers? And are you able to support each other during like the seasons when you're all so busy?
Oh yeah, there's a ton of support, and I follow them both very closely. Sarah just won a gold medal yesterday for Team Canada and set a record for points in the tournament. So it was we're all very proud of her, and that was so fun to watch. And me and my sister Kia, we were only a year apart, but we grew up more like twins, so we were always connecting over the course of the season. And actually, when we got some downtime and everything was shut down, spent a lot of time. Myself, Michaela, we spent a lot of time with Kia in Toronto, and it was great to kind of reconnect after 7 years of always having opposite schedules, not seeing each other much. But that's the good thing about phones and FaceTime. We're always connected nowadays.
Yeah. So you've represented Canada at many levels. How important is it to you to play for your country, and what is it like to stand together with so many great players with gold around your neck?
Yeah, playing for your country, there's another level of excitement every time you put on the Canadian jersey, because you know the amount of people that have played before in those colors, and on top of that, the greatness of playing for Hockey Canada and all the success that they've had in all the tournaments. So when you get to stand there with a medal around your neck and knowing all the work that goes into it, as well as all the work that goes on behind the scenes with the organization itself, it's a very proud moment. And anytime you get to represent your country, there's an extra sense of pride with that too.
So you're playing with who many think is the most exciting player in the world, in Connor McDavid. What is it like to see the things he does on the ice, and what separates him from the rest?
Yeah, each and every night I think he does something that's pretty jaw-dropping. And as a player, like you don't see it very often. Someone who's able to put together the skill and the speed at the same time the way that he can, and I think that's what makes him so special. And you see some of the goals that he scores every year. That's like, wow, how did he do that? But his ability to use his skill and skate faster than anyone else too, it's something that really separates him from everyone else.
The Oilers are rich in Stanley Cup tradition, with a great fan base and a beautiful rink. Why was it so important for you to stay in Edmonton, and what makes it such a special place to play for you?
Yeah, it was the first place. I'm huge on being loyal to organizations that are good to you, and I had that in Sault Ste. Marie when I was in junior. I stayed there all 4 years, and being here in Edmonton, the organization's been great for me over the last 7 years, and I've really grown as a player, as a person, and become part of the community, and it's somewhere that I enjoy spending my seasons. So it was important to stay for a long time. And on top of that, anytime you start something, I love to finish it. And there's a lot of work to be done to get the ultimate goal in the NHL. And for myself, I thought that was important to chase that here in Edmonton.
So right now we have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, aside from Edmonton, what is the best rink to play?
Vegas.
Aside from hockey and the Stanley Cup, which championship would you love to play in?
Olympics.
What is your favorite downtime or off day activity?
Reading.
Do you think you could beat Kia in a 1v1 on the court?
No chance.
Which rule would you like to see removed from the game? Puck over the glass or the new cross-checking rule?
Oh, cross-checking for sure.
Do you still cross-check?
Every once in a while.
What team do you most look forward to playing?
Calgary.
What is your most memorable hockey moment to date?
Winning the World Juniors.
Every class has a class clown. Who is the Oilers class clown?
Kyler Yamamoto.
What athlete, past or present, would you love to draw? Sorry, what athlete, past or present, do you draw most inspiration from?
That's good. Michael Jordan.
In one sentence, what piece of advice can you share with young athletes like me?
Continue to have fun every single day. We're all very lucky to play a sport.
That's awesome. So we've come to the end of our interview. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you one last question. So tonight you're playing Zegras. How do you stop the Michigan? How do you defend the Michigan?
I mean, if I give you that, then maybe he's watching this and he knows what's coming. So I can't give you that.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining. You helped me out a lot, and I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun too.
Thank you.